Welcome to Heartfelt Revenge Stories. Great. Another burden. That is what my mother said at a cookout with 35 guests the afternoon I told my family I was pregnant. My father did not even look up from his plate. He just nodded and added, loud enough for the nearest 15 people to hear every single word. We wish you were never born. And now there will be 2 of you. 35 people heard it. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the neighbor who brings cherry pie every 4th of July. Nobody said a word. Not one person. I smiled. I stood up. And I walked to the cooler to get a bottle of water like nothing had happened. Because what I had set in motion that very morning, before I ever drove to their house, was already dismantling every lie they had built with my money, my savings, and my silence. They just did not know it yet. Please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end. And let me know which city you are listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. Every comment means something to me and I read every single one. My name is Nora. I am 29 years old. I am a nurse practitioner at a small county clinic in Ohio. And this is the story of how I stopped being my family's invisible ATM. Let me take you back 3 years. To the week my father came home from the factory for the last time. The plant on Route 9 shut down on a Tuesday. My father, Earl Dawson, walked through the front door at 2 in the afternoon carrying a cardboard box with a coffee mug and a framed safety certificate inside. 58 years old. 31 years on the floor. No degree. No severance worth mentioning. My mother called me that night. Not my sister Serena. Me. Nora, your father won't file for unemployment. He says it's humiliating. The electric bill is past due and the water's next. I sat at the kitchen table with my husband, Marcus. He had just come off a 12-hour shift pulling wire at a new subdivision. His hands were still dusty from the job. He looked at me the way he always does when something needs to be decided. We can help, Marcus said. But set a number and a timeline. So I did. $800 a month. 1 year. That was the agreement in my head at least because nobody wrote anything down. I called my mother back. Marcus and I can send $800 a month until Dad finds something. My father got on the line. His voice was low and tight the way it gets when pride is doing the talking. Don't tell anyone. I don't want the family knowing I'm taking money from my daughter. Promised. That was my first mistake. Because a month later I was on the phone with my Aunt Carol, my mother's older sister, and she mentioned how relieved she was that Dad's disability settlement had finally come through. That the family could breathe again. Disability settlement. My father never filed for disability. He never filed for anything. I sat with the phone pressed to my ear and said absolutely nothing. $800 a month was supposed to last 1 year. 3 years later I was still sending it. The favoritism was not new. It was just the wallpaper of my childhood. So constant I had stopped noticing it the way you stop noticing the sound of traffic outside your window. When Serena graduated college, my parents threw a full party. Streamers on the mailbox, a sheet cake from the bakery on Main Street that said, "Our Star" in blue frosting. 40 people in the backyard, laughing and clapping and raising their glasses. When I finished nursing school 2 years later, top of my cohort, pinning ceremony and everything, my parents forgot. They were 3 towns over helping Serena look at apartments. My mother texted me that night. "Sorry, honey. Serena needed us today. We'll celebrate soon." We never did. Then came the weddings. Serena married Daniel Cole. He managed the biggest auto dealership in the county. My father shook Daniel's hand at the rehearsal dinner and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Finally, a man in this family who knows how to make real money." I married Marcus Grant 8 months later. Small ceremony. My parents came. At the reception, my father met Marcus for the first time and called him Wire Boy. Not to his face, to my Uncle Frank. But Marcus heard every word. He just squeezed my hand under the table and kept eating. That is who Marcus is. He does not fight with words. He builds things. He fixes things. He shows up. But from that night forward, every family dinner, every holiday, every phone call, it was always Serena. Serena's promotion. Serena's new car. Daniel's dealership numbers. And Nora? Nora's fine. Nora's busy. Nora doesn't need anything. Except I was the one wiring $800 on the first of every month so the lights stayed on. Then my father asked me for something bigger. And I said yes. Because that is what I did back then. I said yes. Started with the car. My father's truck died 6 months after the plant closed. He needed wheels to get to job interviews. Or so he said. He went to the credit union but his credit was wrecked. Nora, I just need a cosigner. I'll make every payment. Marcus looked at me across the kitchen. He did not say no, but his jaw tightened the way it does when he is holding something back. I signed anyway. That was chain number 2 around my neck. If my father missed a payment, my credit score would tank. And Marcus and I were saving to buy a house before starting a family. Then came the church roof. Our church on Elm Street had a leak that ran all winter. My mother sat at Sunday dinner dabbing her eyes with a paper napkin. The pastor says they need $5,000 or the whole sanctuary ceiling comes down. Nobody has stepped up. It breaks my heart. I transferred $5,000 to the church account that Monday under the name Dawson Family because my mother asked me to. The following Sunday, Pastor Thomas stood at the pulpit and thanked the Dawson family for their extraordinary generosity. My mother stood up in the 3rd row. My father nodded along from the pew. I sat beside them and said nothing. And then there was the land. My grandmother, my mother's mother, owned a small parcel of land behind my parents' house. 4/10 of an acre on Maple Street. Before she passed 5 years ago, she told me and Aunt Carol both. This land is for Nora. She will need it. But Grandma never wrote a will. After she died, the deed sat in legal limbo. My parents held the property. Every time I asked about transferring it, my mother had the same answer. Not now, Nora. You are being selfish. I need to stop here for a second because I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. Why did she keep sending the money? Why did she keep saying yes? And I want to answer that honestly because the car loan, the land, the $800 a month, I could not just cut it off without my father's credit dragging mine down with it. Sometimes it is not about wanting to stay. It is about untangling yourself carefully, one knot at a time before you can actually walk free. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been the person keeping everything running while someone else got all the applause? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. Because you are not alone in this. Step 1 of my exit plan. Call the credit union about removing my name from the car loan. The officer told me it could be done. Either Dad refinanced the loan himself, or I paid off the remaining balance and closed it out. Remaining balance $3,200. Step 2, stop the automatic transfer. Cancel the $800. Step 3, Aunt Carol. The one person in this family whose word nobody questions. She did not know about any of it yet. Not the money, not the savings, not the church donation. But she was about to. And step 4 I did not plan. My mother planned it for me. 3 days later she texted the family group chat. Cookout Saturday at our place. Celebrating Serena's new house. Then a separate text just to me. Nora, come early. Bring potato salad. Help me set up. Serena's busy with the house. I read it twice. Serena gets the party. I get the potato salad and the setup crew. I typed back. I'll be there. I have some news to share with the family too. My mother's reply came fast. What news? I'd rather say it in person. A pause. Then fine. But after Serena's toast. Saturday is her day. Her day. It was always her day. I set the phone down and looked at Marcus across the living room. He was rewiring a light fixture he had picked up at the salvage yard. Something for the nursery we could not yet afford to build properly. You sure you want to do this there? He asked without looking up. I want witnesses. He nodded once and went back to stripping wire. Part 2 is coming. And I need you to be ready, because what I packed into my purse that Saturday morning, what Aunt Carol stood up and said at that table, and what the pastor did when my mother smiled and smoothed her hair waiting for her bow, none of it went the way my family expected. Not even close. Welcome back. If you are just joining me, my name is Nora and I have been quietly supporting my parents for 3 years. $800 a month, a co-signed car loan, a $5,000 church donation under their name. While my father drained the childhood savings account I had been building since I was 6 years old and handed $14,000 to my sister for her down payment. They were celebrating her new house on Saturday. I was bringing the potato salad. Let's keep going. That week moved like cold honey. I worked my shifts at the clinic. I smiled at patients. I took blood pressure readings and reviewed lab results and acted like my whole life wasn't about to pivot on a Saturday afternoon in my parents' backyard. But at night I prepared. I pulled up the email confirmation from when I had transferred $5,000 to the church. The bank's automated receipt, sent straight to my inbox. Sender, First National Bank. Recipient, Elm Street Community Church. Donor Nora Grant. I screenshotted it and saved it to a folder on my phone labeled Receipts. I printed the account closure letter, the one showing $14,000 withdrawn by the joint account holder. I slid it into a plain white envelope and tucked it into my purse. And then I did something I had not done in years. I opened my laptop and searched for the church's public donor acknowledgement page. There it was. Dawson family. $5,000. Roof restoration fund. My name was not anywhere on it. Not yet. Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the cookout, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off my father's blood pressure medication. I was still his daughter. I still filled his prescriptions at the clinic pharmacy. Serena's SUV was in the driveway. She was at the kitchen counter with my mother, flipping through a home decor catalog. Her ring caught the light every time she turned a page. She looked up when I walked in. Nora, perfect timing. Come look at these curtains. I set the pill bottle on the counter. Nice house, Serena. You and Daniel must have saved really hard. Serena beamed. Honestly, the down payment was the hardest part. $15,000 total. Mom and Dad helped with 14 of it. We only had to cover the last 1,000 ourselves. She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. My mother was watching me from the stove. Her eyes careful. Measuring. Mom and Dad had 14,000. I kept my voice completely level. Where did they get that? Serena shrugged. Dad said it was from his disability savings. He's been putting money aside since the settlement. Disability savings. The settlement that did not exist. Funded by money that was mine. I smiled. That was very generous of them. Serena turned another page. Oh, Mom said Pastor Thomas is coming to the cookout Saturday. She wants him to bless the new house. And I almost laughed out loud. Pastor Thomas, the one person outside this kitchen who knew exactly where that church donation had come from. And my mother had invited him herself. That is a nice touch, I said. I am sure the pastor will have some interesting things to say. My mother's spatula stopped moving. Just for a second. Then she went back to stirring. I picked up my purse and left. Friday morning, I walked into the credit union on Main Street at 9 sharp. The loan officer, a woman named Pam with reading glasses on a beaded chain, pulled up the account. Vehicle loan under Earl Dawson. You are listed as cosigner. She scrolled through the file. Remaining balance is $3,214. I want to pay it off today and remove my name from the loan entirely. Pam looked at me over her glasses. You understand that once paid in full, the lien is released and the vehicle title goes solely to the primary borrower. I understand. And you are sure? I am sure. Marcus and I had talked about it the night before. $3,000 was the money we had been setting aside for a crib and a changing table, and all the things you need when you are about to become parents. We would figure that out later. Second hand. Borrowed. It did not matter. Pay it, Marcus had said, same way he said everything important, quiet and final. Buy your freedom. I wrote the check. Pam processed it. She printed a release form and I signed it. Clean signature. Steady hand. You are all set, Mrs. Grant. Mr. Dawson will receive notification by mail within 5 to 7 business days. After the cookout. Perfect. I stood to leave and Pam said something that stopped me at the door. You know, you are the second Dawson in here this month. I turned. What do you mean? She caught herself. Shook her head. I am sorry. I cannot discuss other clients' business. I nodded. Walked out to the parking lot. Sat in my car. The second Dawson this month. My father had been here recently. For what? I did not know yet. But I filed it away right next to the white envelope in my purse. Friday evening I sat on the back porch with my phone and a glass of water. Marcus was inside making dinner. His turn, and he would not let me argue about it. I dialed Aunt Carol. She picked up on the second ring. Nora, sweetheart. It has been too long. Aunt Carol, I need to tell you something. It is not small. Silence on her end. Then, go ahead. I told her everything. Not fast, not emotional, just the facts laid out in order the way a nurse charts a patient history. The $800 a month for 3 years. The disability lie. The savings account. $14,000. The church roof donation. My mother taking credit at the pulpit. The cosign car loan. I could hear Aunt Carol breathing on the other end, steady and slow, like she was measuring each word I said against something she had already suspected. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Your mother told me your father got a disability settlement. He never filed for disability, Aunt Carol. He never filed for anything. And the $14,000, that was the account your grandmother started for you. Yes, ma'am. Another silence. I heard a chair creak like she was sitting down heavily. What do you want me to do, Nora? Nothing. I do not want you to do anything. I just need one person in this family to know the truth. In case it matters tomorrow. Tomorrow. The cookout. A pause. When Aunt Carol spoke again, her voice had changed. Not louder. Harder. I will be at that cookout, Nora. And I will be listening. She did not promise to speak up. She did not promise to take sides. She just said she would be there and she would listen. But anyone who knows Aunt Carol, retired schoolteacher, 32 years in a classroom, raised 4 kids alone after Uncle Bill passed, knows that when she listens, what comes next shakes the room. Later that night, I opened my laptop and composed an email to Pastor Thomas. I had known him since I was 12. He baptized me. He married Marcus and me. He was a good man, careful with people's privacy, honest when it counted. I wrote, Pastor Thomas, I want to thank you for keeping my donation private all this time. But I would like to update the church records to reflect the actual donor. Nora Grant, not the Dawson family. I will explain when the time is right. Thank you for everything. His reply came within the hour, faster than I expected from a man who still printed his sermons on paper. Nora, I have always known the bank transfer had your name on it. I respected your wishes. I will update our records this week. Linda invited me to the cookout on Saturday. I will see you there. Then a second email 3 minutes later. One more thing. Linda asked me to publicly thank the Dawson family again at the cookout for the church roof donation. I assume you would like me to handle that differently now. I typed 2 sentences back. Just tell the truth, Pastor. That is all I have ever wanted. I closed the laptop, walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face and looked in the mirror for a long time. Then I picked up my phone, opened the banking app and found the automatic transfer. $800. First of every month. To Earl and Linda Dawson's joint checking account. Set to go in 6 days. I pressed cancel. 3 years. 36 payments. $28,800. Done. I did not cancel out of anger. I canceled because I could not keep funding people who would call my child a burden. That is not revenge. That is math. I want to stop here for a second because I know some of you are sitting with this and thinking, she should have done this so much sooner. And maybe you are right. But I want you to understand something. When you have been the quiet one your whole life, the one who clears the plates and fills the prescriptions and sends the money and never asks for a single thank you, stepping out of that role is not a decision you make in an afternoon. It is something you arrive at slowly, painfully, through 100 small moments that pile up until one day you sit at a kitchen table with a calculator and finally let yourself see the total. If you have been in that place, you know exactly what I mean. Drop a comment. I am reading everyone. And I promise you are further along than you think. Saturday morning. Cookout day. I woke at 6. Marcus was already up. Coffee made, work boots by the door even though he was not working today. Old habit. I stood in the kitchen and made the potato salad because I had promised. And because Nora Dawson, Nora Grant, keeps her word even when nobody else does. Marcus leaned against the counter watching me dice eggs. We are still going. We are still going. Last time. He nodded. Did not ask what that meant. He already knew. I got dressed. A simple sundress, blue with white flowers. Flat sandals. No jewelry except my wedding ring. I did not do my makeup any differently than a regular Saturday. This was not a performance. This was an ending. I slid my phone into my purse, the one with the screenshots saved in a folder labeled receipts. I tucked the white envelope next to it. The bank's account closure notice. $14,000. Earl Dawson joint holder. Marcus drove. Neither of us turned on the radio. The road between our apartment and my parents' house is 11 minutes of county highway lined with cornfields and telephone poles. I watched them pass and rested my hand on my stomach. We pulled up at 11:45. Uncle Frank's pickup was already in the driveway. Aunt Carol's sedan. She was already here. Good. My mother appeared at the front door before I had even closed the car door. You are late. The tables are not set up. The cooler needs ice. Come inside. No hello. No how are you, Nora? Not even a glance at Marcus. I carried the potato salad through the front door and into the kitchen. And there, taped to the refrigerator, was a blown-up photo of Serena and Daniel standing in front of their new house. Gold glitter letters above it. Congratulations. Next to it, nothing. No photo of me. Not from nursing school. Not from my wedding. Not from anything. I set the bowl down and went to work. Part 3 is coming. And what happens at 1:30 in that backyard, with 35 people, a pastor, a white envelope, and my Aunt Carol standing up from her chair, is the part that changed everything. Do not go anywhere. By 1 o'clock, the backyard was full. 35 people, maybe more. Aunts and uncles I saw twice a year. Cousins with kids running through the sprinkler. Mrs. Dalton from 2 doors down with her famous cherry pie. The Henderson couple from church. Streamers strung between 2 oak trees. A banner that read, "Congratulations Serena and Daniel. New homeowners." My father was at the grill. Tongs in one hand, beer in the other. He looked almost happy. I had not seen that in 3 years. At 1:30, my mother clinked a fork against her glass and called everyone to attention. My father set down his tongs and walked to the head of the long table, wearing his good flannel, the one he saved for church. Today we are here because my daughter Serena did something her mother and I are real proud of. He raised his can. She bought a home. First one in this family since we got this place 30 years ago. We raised her right and she made something of herself. He looked at Daniel and added, "And this guy right here, heck of a son-in-law." Everyone clapped. Serena waved like a homecoming queen. Daniel shook my father's hand. My mother added, "The Dawson family also donated to the church roof fund this year. It has been a blessed season for us." More clapping. A few amens from the church crowd. I stood near the cooler holding a plastic cup of lemonade. Marcus was beside me, hands in his pockets. Uncle Frank wandered over. He is my father's younger brother, quieter, sharper. "How are you doing, Nora? Your folks sure do talk about Serena a lot." I smiled. "I am good, Uncle Frank." He studied my face for a moment, then nodded and walked back to the table. Not everyone was blind. The toast wound down. People went back to eating. Laughter floated across the yard. Kids chased each other around the oak trees. My mother refilled the chip bowls with the focus of a general running a military campaign. I waited. Marcus caught my eye from across the table and gave me one small nod. I set down my cup. "I have something to share too, if that is okay." The yard did not go completely quiet, but enough people turned. My mother looked up from the chip bowl, mouth pressed thin. "Marcus and I are expecting a baby. I am 10 weeks along." For about 2 seconds it was fine. A cousin clapped. Mrs. Henderson said, "Oh, how wonderful." Uncle Frank smiled wide. Then my mother spoke. "Great. Another burden." She did not whisper it. She said it at full conversation volume, standing right there at the table. "Your sister is buying a house. That is what we are celebrating this month." My father was still at the grill. He did not even turn around. He just nodded and said, loud enough for the nearest 15 people to hear every word, "We wish you were never born. And now there will be 2 of you." The yard went dead silent. The grill sizzling. A kid's sprinkler hissing 20 feet away. A bird somewhere in the oak tree. Aunt Carol set her glass down on the table slowly, like she was placing a period at the end of a very long sentence. Uncle Frank's mouth was open. Mrs. Dalton put her hand over her own. Marcus's knuckles went white on the back of his chair, but he did not move. He was watching me. I smiled. I nodded. I walked to the cooler, took out a bottle of water, twisted the cap off and took a long slow sip. Because Pastor Thomas's car had just pulled into the driveway. Aunt Carol stood up. She did not rush. She did not raise her voice. She pushed her chair back, smoothed her blouse, and faced my parents the way she had probably faced 30 years' worth of misbehaving students, with a patience that made you more nervous than shouting ever could. Earl. Linda. Her voice carried across the yard without effort. I heard what you just said to your daughter. In front of 35 people. Before anyone sits down for seconds, I have a question. My father set his tongs on the grill shelf. Carol, this is between me and my family. I am your family, she said. So here is my question. The disability settlement Linda told me about last year, Earl. When exactly did you file for disability? He did not answer. His mouth opened, then closed. My mother stepped forward, voice pitching high. Carol, that is not related. We are having a party. It is related. Because if there is no disability settlement, then who has been paying your electric bill for 3 years? The silence that followed was a different kind than before. Before it was shock. This was the sound of 35 people doing math in their heads. Serena looked at my father, then at my mother. Her smile from the toast was gone. Daniel stood very still beside Serena, arms at his sides. Uncle Frank nodded slowly, like a man watching the last piece of a puzzle click into place. Mrs. Dalton leaned to her husband and whispered something. He shook his head. Aunt Carol sat back down. She picked up her glass of sweet tea and took a long sip. She was done for now. She had thrown one grenade and sat back down to watch. That was her style. Plant the question. Let the silence do the rest. And walking through the side gate with a Bible under his arm and a foil-covered dish in his hands was Pastor Thomas. My mother's eyes lit up on command. She latched onto him like a life raft. Pastor, come in, come in. We were hoping you could do a blessing for Serena's new home. I would be happy to, he said, setting his dish on the table. But first, Linda, you mentioned wanting me to publicly thank the family for the church roof donation. I want to do that properly. My mother's posture lifted. She smoothed her hair, ready for her bow. Pastor Thomas turned to the yard. 30-some people, half of them still processing what Aunt Carol had just dropped on the table. Folks, quick word. As many of you know, our church roof needed major repair last year. $5,000. One donor covered the entire cost. He paused. Then he looked directly at me. Nora, thank you. Your generosity kept our sanctuary from leaking all winter. My mother's face did not change right away. It was like watching a screen freeze. Everything still there but nothing moving behind it. Then it hit her. Well, Morgan is my daughter, she said, laughing in that bright way she used at church functions, trying to regroup. So it is still the Dawson family, really? Linda. Mrs. Dalton's voice from her folding chair. At Quilting Circle last month, you said that donation was from you and Earl. That is what I meant. Nora is part of. You stood up in church. Aunt Carol's voice. Not loud, not soft. Just certain. You stood up and took the bow. You did not mention Nora's name once. My mother looked at me. I was standing by the cooler, water bottle in hand. I did not say a word. I did not need to. I want to stop here because I know some of you are feeling this deeply right now. That particular kind of exhaustion that comes from spending years watching someone else wear the crown you built. And if you have ever stood in a room like that, silent, steady, watching the truth finally start to breathe, I want you to know that what comes next is worth staying for. Drop a comment. Tell me where you are watching from. I see every single one. My father tried to regain ground. He stepped away from the grill, jaw set. One church donation. Fine. She wants credit, she can have it. But that does not change the fact that we raised her. 18 years. I set my water bottle down. You are right, Dad. You raised me for 18 years. My voice was even. No shake, no edge, no performance. And I have been paying you back for the last 3. He stared at me. $800 a month. Wired to your checking account on the 1st of every month. 36 months. That is $28,800. The yard did not make a sound. Even the kids had stopped running. There is no disability settlement, Aunt Carol. I looked at her. That money was from me. My bank statements show every single transfer, dated and documented. My mother's hand went to her throat. Nora, what are you doing? Are you trying to destroy this family? I am not destroying anything, Mom. I am just done building it for you. Uncle Frank turned to my father. His voice carried to the far table. $30,000, Earl. And you just told her you wish she was never born. Serena grabbed Daniel's arm. Dad, $800 a month. You told me that was disability money. My father did not answer. He picked up his beer, stared at it, and set it back down. The grill popped behind him. Smoke curled into the afternoon air. Somewhere on the street, a lawnmower started up. The whole ordinary world carrying on like nothing was happening. But in that backyard, the family portrait my mother had been painting for 40 years was dissolving in real time. And I still had the envelope in my purse. I reached in. No dramatic pause, no speech. I pulled out the white envelope and set it on the table in front of Serena. One more thing. Serena looked at the envelope like it might bite her. When I was 6 years old, Dad opened a savings account in both our names. Grandma put money in it every birthday. I added to it through high school. By the time I turned 18, there was over $14,000 in that account. I looked at my father. 7 months ago, you withdrew every cent. Serena opened the envelope. She read the bank notice. I watched her lips move as she scanned the final balance line. $0. Her face went white. Daniel stood up from the table. He looked at my father the way you look at someone who has been lying to you for months. You told us that was your savings, Earl. Years of hard work. My father's chin came up. That account had my name on it. That money was from your mother-in-law. Aunt Carol's voice was iron. From your mother-in-law. I was there when she gave it. Every single birthday. My mother started crying then. Not the controlled kind from earlier. The real kind. The kind that comes when the audience you have been performing for finally sees behind the curtain. Half the guests were on their feet. The Hendersons had already left. Mrs. Dalton was folding her chair but not going anywhere yet. She wanted to see how this ended. Uncle Frank stood with his arms crossed, shaking his head slowly. Serena set the letter down. Her hand was trembling. Mom, she said. Is this true? My mother did not answer. She just cried harder. That was all the answer anyone needed. Part 4 is where it gets even more complicated. Because what Serena's husband told me the following week, about what my mother had been quietly doing behind my back for an entire year while I was still writing checks, that was the piece of the story I was not prepared for. Stay with me. I did not sit back down. This was going to be short. Dad. Mom. I looked at them both. My voice was the same one I use when I tell a patient that the test results came back and we need to talk. Calm. Clear. No room for bargaining. I canceled the $800 transfer last week. It is done. And I paid off the car loan yesterday. My name is off it. From next month, those payments are yours. My father's face went from red to pale in about 2 seconds. You cannot just. I can. Because it was my money and my name. My mother tried one more play. The big one. Nora, if you walk away from this family now, do not ever come back. I let that sentence land. Let it sit there in front of 30 people like a grenade with the pin pulled. Then I said, you told me you wish I was never born. So I am going to live like I do not exist to you. No $800, no co-signed loans, no potato salad. Someone in the yard, I think it was Mrs. Dalton, let out a small sound. Almost like a laugh she caught in her own hand. Marcus stepped up beside me. He did not say anything. He just put his hand on my back. Steady and warm. I looked at the yard. The deflating balloons. The congratulations banner starting to sag on one end. Uncle Frank and Aunt Carol and the cousins who had been watching this whole thing unfold like a play none of them had bought tickets for. I am sorry this happened at a party, I said. Marcus and I are going to head home. We walked through the side gate. I did not slam it. I did not turn around. Marcus opened the car door for me. I sat down, buckled my seatbelt, and put both hands on my stomach. We drove home in silence. But it was a different silence than the drive there. This one was clean. The week after. Monday morning, my father opened his mailbox and found the letter from the credit union. Loan paid in full. Cosigner removed. Vehicle title transferred to sole borrower Earl Dawson. Which sounds fine. Except now Earl was the only name on a loan history tied to a credit score that could not support a library card, let alone a truck payment. The credit union sent a follow-up notice recommending he secure a new co-signer or risk reclassification on future credit applications. Nobody in the family was lining up. Tuesday, my mother checked the bank account. No $800 deposit. She checked again Wednesday. Nothing. She called me. I let it ring. She called Marcus. He answered because Marcus always answers even when he does not want to. Linda. Nora said what she needed to say on Saturday. We are not available. He hung up. Not rude. Just done. Thursday, my mother called Aunt Carol. I know this because Aunt Carol told me later, almost word for word. Carol, Nora is tearing this family apart. She humiliated us at the cookout. She is punishing us for nothing. Aunt Carol's reply. Linda, you told your daughter you wished she was never born in front of 35 people. Do not call me about betrayal. My mother hung up on her own sister. The call I did not expect came Thursday evening. Serena. Her voice sounded different. Not the golden child lilt I had known my whole life. Something thinner. More careful. Nora. Derek says if the down payment came from your account, he wants to pay it back. He will not start our life in a house bought with stolen money. I leaned against the kitchen counter and let those words sit for a moment. Serena, that is between you and Derek. It is between all of us. And I am sorry. It was the first time she had ever said that to me. The very first time in 29 years. Derek and I met at the diner on 5th Street the following Saturday. Neutral ground. Just the two of us in a corner booth, coffee between us. He looked tired. Not angry, tired the way people look when they have spent a week realizing the foundation under their house was built on sand. I want you to hear me say this, he started. I did not know. Serena told me it was their savings. Years of money set aside from your dad's settlement. I never questioned it. I believe you, Derek. Serena and I will pay you back. $500 a month. It will take time, but we will cover the 14. You do not have to. Yeah, I do. He wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. I am not going to raise my kids in a house paid for with money taken from their aunt. That is not who I want to be. I respected that. I nodded. Then he told me something that changed the shape of the entire story. Serena told me something 2 nights ago that she has been carrying for a while. He paused. Your mother told the extended family, the cousins, the aunts on the other side, that you had been struggling, that you made things up, that you exaggerated. I set down my coffee. She told them this so that if you ever said anything about the money, nobody would believe you. I let that settle. My own mother had been building a wall around me, brick by brick, lie by lie, so that when the truth finally came out, I would look like the unstable one, the dramatic one, the one who could not be trusted. How long? I asked. Serena says at least a year. A year. While I was writing checks and filling prescriptions and making potato salad, my mother was poisoning the well. The diner felt very quiet around me. Thank you for telling me, Derek. He nodded. We shook hands. No hug. Just two people trying to be decent in the middle of a mess. I need to stop for a second because I know some of you just felt that the way I felt it sitting across from Derek in that diner booth. That specific hollow realization that while you were quietly loving someone, they were quietly making sure no one would believe you if you ever spoke the truth. Tell me in the comments. And if you have dealt with something similar, share your story. You are not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Because you deserve to have your name on your own story. And nobody gets to take that from you. The call came the following Tuesday. Not from family. From Pam at the credit union, the same loan officer who had processed my payoff. Mrs. Grant, I hope this is not an overstep, but after you came in last week I flagged something in our system during a routine review. Her voice was careful, the way people sound when they are balancing procedure against conscience. Your father visited our branch 3 weeks ago to inquire about a home equity line of credit. The application was against a parcel of land, 4/10 of an acre on Maple Street. Grandma's land. I gripped the phone tighter. He cannot do that. The deed is not in his name. You are correct. The property is still in probate, which is why the application did not proceed. But I thought you should know the inquiry was made. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat very still in my car outside the clinic and let it sink in. My father had not just taken my past, the savings account, the years of monthly checks, the church donation, the credit score leverage. He had been trying to take my future too. Grandma's land. The only thing she had ever specifically meant to leave me. And he had walked into the credit union to see if he could borrow against it. If I had not gone in to pay off the car loan, Pam would never have flagged Earl's inquiry. I would never have known. That evening I called Aunt Carol. He tried to take the land. A long breath. Then, call a lawyer, Nora. I will be your witness. Your grandmother wanted that land for you. I will say it under oath if I have to. I called a real estate attorney the next morning. He was not just stealing my past. He was trying to mortgage my future. Part 5 is the last part. And it is the one I still think about when I sit on the porch in the evening and watch the light go gold. What happened to the town? What happened to Serena? What happened between me and Marcus as we set up a nursery we could barely afford in an apartment that was entirely ours? And what I want to say to you, if you are still in the middle of your own version of this story, come with me. Small towns do not need newspapers. They have Mrs. Dalton. By the following Sunday, the story had moved through every circle in Grover. The quilting group, church coffee hour, the checkout line at Harrison's Market. Not because anyone was cruel about it, because 35 people saw what happened at that cookout, and 35 people have families of their own, and they all went home and had dinner and talked about it. My mother showed up at church the following week. She walked to her usual pew, third row, left side, the one she had sat in for 20 years. It was occupied. 2 women from the choir had gotten there early. Nobody said you cannot sit here. They did not have to. The message was in the silence. The thank you plaque in the church lobby had been updated. Where it once read Dawson Family, $5,000, Roof Restoration Fund, it now said, Nora Grant. My mother saw it. She took my father by the elbow, and they left before the first hymn. At the post office, Mr. Henderson ran into my father. His version of small talk landed like a brick. Heard your youngest was the one covering the bills, Earl. Everything all right at home? My father said nothing. Walked to his truck. Drove away. At Harrison's Market, my mother stopped going to her usual Thursday morning volunteer shift. Too many familiar faces. Too many careful silences. Nobody organized a boycott. Nobody wrote letters. This was not that kind of cruelty. It was the slow, steady withdrawal of respect, the one currency my mother had valued above everything else for as long as I could remember. My father started spending more time in the garage, door closed. My mother stopped answering the phone on the first ring. Their world did not collapse overnight. It just got smaller. One averted gaze at a time. 2 weeks after the cookout, Serena texted me. Can we talk? Just the 2 of us. No parents. We met at the park on Cedar Street, the one with the old swing set where we used to play when we were kids, before the favoritism calcified into something permanent. Serena sat on a bench with no sunglasses to hide behind, no Derek beside her. She looked smaller without the golden child glow. You have every right to hate me, she said. I do not hate you, Serena. Then what? I thought about it for a moment. I am tired. There is a difference. She nodded. I did not know about the savings account. I swear I did not. Derek told me what he found out and I did not sleep for 3 days. She looked at her hands. I keep thinking. 18 years you saved that money and Dad just took it. He did. I want to tell you something. Her voice dropped. Mom told the cousins you were struggling. That you made things up, that you exaggerated. Serena's chin trembled. She planned it, Nora. Our mother planned it. So nobody would believe you if you ever spoke up. A kid ran past us chasing a dog. Normal life 10 feet away. We can rebuild, I said. You and me. But slowly. And not through them. She wiped her eyes. Okay. $500 a month. Derek already said we pay back every cent. I did not argue. It was my money. It had always been my money. We sat there for a while on that park bench. 33 and 29 years old. Looking at the swing set where things used to be simple. We did not hug. We did not cry together. Just 2 sisters sitting with the truth between them. deciding whether it was something they could build on. It was not forgiveness yet, but it was a door left open. On my terms. The article ran in the County Weekly the same week the leaves started turning. Local electrician Marcus Grant lands contract for new community center. Half a page. A photo of Marcus shaking hands with the town supervisor. The biggest construction project the township had funded in a decade. And my husband, the man my father called Wireboy, was the lead contractor. I bought 5 copies of that paper. Not to gloat, because I wanted our child to see it someday. I wanted her to know who her father was before she was even old enough to ask. My father read the paper. I know because Uncle Frank told me. Said Earl was sitting on his porch with the paper open to that page, staring at it like he was trying to solve an equation that would not balance. Wireboy building the town's community center. While Earl Dawson could not find a cosigner for his truck. Meanwhile, the attorney Marcus and I hired filed the paperwork to claim Grandma's land through probate court. Aunt Carol signed an affidavit, a written statement under oath, that our grandmother had specifically intended the Maple Street parcel for me. The attorney said it could take 6 to 8 months, maybe longer. But it was moving. I went to my 12-week prenatal checkup. The baby was healthy. Strong heartbeat. The ultrasound tech printed me a picture, and I held it in the car for 10 minutes before I could bring myself to drive home. The doctor's intake form asked, "Family support system?" I wrote, "Husband, aunt." That was enough. Marcus and I set up the nursery in the second bedroom of our apartment. It was small, barely fit the crib and a dresser. The crib was secondhand from a coworker whose kids had outgrown it. The walls were pale yellow. Marcus installed the overhead light himself. It was not the house on Grandma's land. Not yet. But it was ours. Every single square inch of it, paid for with money nobody had lied about. My baby would grow up in a small apartment. But it would be a home where nobody wishes she was never born. A month after the cookout, my mother sent a text. "Nora, I know I said things I should not have. But I am still your mother. You cannot just cut us off." I read it 3 times. Then I typed back slowly, deliberately, the way I chart notes at the clinic. "Mom, I am not cutting you off. I am protecting my child. When you and Dad are ready to sit down with a family therapist, I am willing to talk. But I am not going back to writing checks and pretending everything is fine." She did not reply. 3 days later, Ryan's phone rang at dinner. He looked at the screen, then at me. "It is your dad." He answered. I could hear my father's voice through the speaker, gruff, clipped, the way he talks when he is trying to sound unbothered. "Tell Nora to call me." Marcus kept his voice level. "Earl, she knows how to reach you. She stated her condition. It is up to you now." A pause. Then the line went dead. My father did not call again. My mother did not text again. Not that week. Not the week after. I would be lying if I said it did not hurt. It did. Some nights I would lie in bed with my hand on my stomach and hear my mother's voice at that cookout. Great. Another burden. And I would wonder if there was a version of this where she was different. Where my father was different. Where the savings account stayed intact and the land was in my name. And nobody ever had to stand up at a family barbecue and read receipts in front of 35 people. But there was not. This was the version I got. I did not close the door. I put a lock on it. The key was simple. "I am sorry," and a chair in a therapist's office. They knew where to find both. Tell me in the comments. And if you have dealt with something similar, share your story. You are not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Because what I went through is not rare. The names are different and the kitchens are different and the amounts on the bank statements are different, but the feeling of being the invisible one, the one who gives and never gets to exist in her own story, that is something so many of you know. And I want you to know that speaking the truth out loud, even when your voice shakes, even when you are standing at a folding table with 35 people watching, that is not drama. That is dignity. I am sitting on our apartment porch as I tell you this. It is early evening. The light is going gold the way it does in October in Ohio. Marcus is inside. I can hear him fitting baseboards in the nursery, tapping them into place with a rubber mallet, slow and steady, the way he does everything. I do not tell this story so you will hate my parents. They are real people. My father lost his job at 58 and never recovered. Not financially, not in his pride, not in the way he saw himself. My mother is terrified of what people think, and she built a whole identity around being the woman whose family had it together. When reality did not match, she rewrote it. She rewrote me right out of the picture. That does not make it okay. It makes it human. And it makes it something I had to walk away from. Here is what I learned. And I am not saying this to preach. I am saying it because I wish someone had said it to me 3 years ago, before the first wire transfer ever left my account. Love is not a reason to let someone take everything from you. And silence is not strength. Sometimes silence is just the sound of making yourself smaller so someone else can be comfortable. My daughter is going to be born in February. She will grow up in a small apartment with second-hand furniture, and a father who comes home with drywall dust in his hair. She will not have a trust fund. She will not have a big extended family cheering her on, not yet. But she will have something I did not have. She will have a mother who knows what she is worth, who does not apologize for existing, who set a boundary and held it, not with anger but with math and truth, and a white envelope placed on a folding table on a Saturday afternoon. That is my story. Marcus just opened the door. He is holding a glass of water and giving me that look, the one that says come inside, it is getting cold. So I will go. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. Means more than you know. If this story hit close to home, leave me a comment. Tell me your version. Tell me the part that sounded familiar. I read every single one. Hit like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.